All right, so I'm here again. Bingleton is, I think, a little more on the excitable side, agitated even. So he might pester me occasionally during this video. It's now one. Look, there he is. There he goes. Baby Chimble, come on, there. If you want to hop up, or what do you want to do there? Your baby Chimbleton. Anyway, so it's now 1:20 a.m. in the morning, really in the evening. I don't know why we decided that 12 a.m. is when the morning started. It seems strange, right? But anyway, the reason I'm making this video now, at this time, is this is a video. This is also related to vision. So this is another in my Vision Quest series, working title. Not working very hard, I might add. And basically, what this one's about is it's related to a video I did previously called From One Emperor to Another. And I'm going to put the card for that here. If future me is diligent and Jude can, yeah. Okay, so here's the premise of that, is that you are really not the same person when you wake up in the morning that you were when you go to bed, right? And of course, literally you are, right? You have the same name, you have the same identity documents and all of that. And if you want, but really, like, what motivates you, what you want, and the choices, the kind of choices that you're going to make, they actually change from day to day, right? They're always changing. And you actually have to deal with that there are existential implications to that. So I go into that in more detail in that other video, but one of the things I don't really talk about in that video that I think is very important to consider is what this means for having a schedule or kind of making a timetable for yourself. So I'm going to call this video something along the lines of the tyranny of the timetable. And so here's the thing, here's how it goes, all right? And let me know if you can relate to this. Everyone knows that they would get so much more done and they would live up to their potential to such a greater degree if they could make a schedule and stick to it, right? So we've all had this fantasy, I'm sure. It's the stuff of countless self-help books. Atomic Habits is coming to mind for me, but there are many. And the idea is that you sort of conquer your own laziness, complacency, whatever, by instigating this rigorous, regimented timetable where, it says like 8 a.m., have shower, do this, go to the gym, 9 a.m., study this for an hour, meditate. You know what I mean? It's just sort of like laundry list of stuff that you should do. And the idea is that if you write all that down and you put that into a schedule and then you just do it, then you will have done all the things that you told yourself that you wanted to do. And you'll be this healthy version of yourself that is living up to their potential one day at a time, right? Beautiful idea. And we probably all know people, or at least like a person who actually is like this, all right? We have this imagination of the archetype of the CEO, of like these sort of like hyper productive individuals where every waking minute of their day is accounted for. And so they live their life in that way. And they're very accomplished and they're very smug, probably, in whatever capacity, because they've sort of done what most people only dream of doing, which is the idea that they've like mastered their time, and so they've mastered themselves. But this word mastered really has two meanings, doesn't it? There is mastery, as in mastery of a skill. And this is a kind of mastery that we aspire to. But there's also mastery in the context of mastery of a slave, right? And this is something that we probably don't aspire to so much. And, you know, what do we do when the slave that we're trying to master, or the slave that we're claiming to be the master of, is ourself, right? How do we reconcile that? And here you can see that a problem arises, because what this really means is there's a present you who is the true you, the you that actually exists. And then there is a future you to whom you are delegating all of these idealistic tasks that the present you is unwilling or unable to engage in, right? So again, the reason it dovetails into this video that I'm making right now is because, yes, it's now 1:26 a.m. in the morning. I could very easily say, okay, I've had this idea for this video or this concept, and I need to make a video about it. So I'm going to assign that task to tomorrow me, the person who is going to wake up when I go to bed after this. You know, they'll wake up and they'll have this kind of hangover from the day before, of this thing that they feel that they ought to do, but something that they probably personally, being me, don't want to do anymore, right? So, well, what's going on here, right? It's another trick that you play on yourself. It's a mental trick. And what's happening is that, you know, the things that you're making this timetable of, you're making things up, you're making this timetable up out of things that you don't want to do right now. And if you don't want to do them right now, then the question becomes, well, why do you think you're going to want to do them tomorrow? And then maybe your answer is, well, I'm not going to want to do them tomorrow, but I can force myself to do them tomorrow by putting them in this schedule, which I'm going to stick to. But the problem is, as we all know, you're not going to stick to that schedule, right? We don't stick to the schedule, and it creates this like terrible cognitive dissonance where you feel like you're disappointing yourself day in, day out, because you're not able to live up to your own standards. But that's really not what's going on. What's happening is that the you that exists now is trying to use the timetable, the schedule, to rule tyrannically over a future you. But the problem is that as a tyrant, you have no power over the future you. Because as I talked about in my previous video, the tomorrow you, or the future you, will inherit the empire of your life. So what that means is if you leave them a task to do and they decide they don't want to do it, well, you have no power over them because they are the one with the hegemony over that diurnal cycle, right? So what that means is, if I tell my tomorrow self to do this, which I'm doing now, they'll just say, I don't feel like doing it, so I'm not going to do it. Too bad, so sad. You know what I mean? Because the tyrant, who is me now, is dead by tomorrow or gone, completely vanquished by the inevitable onslaught of time. And so here's the takeaway, I suppose, is that you shouldn't put anything in your timetable of what you're going to do tomorrow that you're not willing to do now, that you don't want to do now. If you don't want to do it now, then you're sure as shit not going to want to do it tomorrow. And ruling over your future self like a tyrant is ineffective because a tyrant relies on having power over his or her subjects, normally in the form of fear. And so again, this is kind of the best thing that you have as a weapon to use against your future self to try and submit them to your will, is to exert guilt over them or fear, a fear that they can't live up to their own potential or a guilt that they've disappointed themselves. And, is that what you want to do? Again, along the lines of being a beneficent ruler and understanding the legacy of your actions to your dynasty. Like, do you want the tomorrow version of yourself to live in regret and guilt and fear? I say, instead of doing that, really contend with whether you want to do the things on your little timetable now. And if you don't want to do them, just admit, I don't really want to do them. I'm probably getting the idea that I do want to do them from someone or somewhere else. And actually, it's not my place to make myself do things that I don't want to do. My place, if anything, is to really carefully observe and investigate what it is that I do want to do now, and then figure out how I can use that to inform the rest of my life in a structured way. And at that point, I think a timetable, in theory, would become an exercise in joy and excitement, the same kind of excitement that you felt when you were a kid, perhaps. I know I did before Christmas Day, right? On Christmas Eve, when you were just so excited to get up and open your presents. You just knew that on the other side of that night was all kinds of great stuff and all kinds of fun, right? And when it comes to excitement and fun and passion, your today self and your tomorrow self aren't always going to agree. Sometimes your tomorrow self won't be excited or joyful about the things that your today self is. But at least it's a good starting point, right? You're trying to be the scribe of your own destiny in good faith. that way, rather than out of fear, and also a failure to accept responsibility for your own misconceptions. Okie doke, so that's a good one, isn't it? That's a fun one, and only 15 minutes. So that's great. I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope that you figure out the way in which you're doing well and hand that down to the future generations of you. And yeah, check out that One Emperor to Another video. It's actually pretty good. Okie doke, farewell and lots of love. I can now return to appeasing poor Chimbleton, who doesn't know what he wants. It certainly has no imagination of his future self whatsoever. All right, goodbye.